Hey, Nicole. Hey, Angelia, how you been?
Girl, I've been good. What about you?
Girl, everything's been going good. What's new with you?
Honey, out here trying to be my own boss and I'm making these money moves.
You know, I've been trying to stay fit and work on my health and my wellness.
All right now. What about the issues us women are facing today and the struggle with these relationships? Oh my gosh.
Girl, that's just too heavy. Let's go hit up the hot spots and happenings.
Girl,
Let's talk.
Welcome to Let's Talk with Angela and Nicole. Thank you, Michael, so much for joining us today.
I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to
Great.
hear.
So we're going to talk about Release to Serve, and tell us about Michael Molthan. Who is Michael Molthan?
Well, I was born in New Braunfels, Texas, and then 1969 and moved to Dallas in Plano. Grew up in Plano my whole life.
Okay.
I've been here. I'm 49 years old, just turned 49.
Okay.
And but I've been in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for 47 years of my life. So I call myself I'm from D-Town, baby.
Dallas,
I'm from
okay.
Dallas. So,
Okay.
but grew up in a very good home. Was provided for. But I have a disease. I have a disease of drug addiction and alcoholism.
Oh, okay.
And so when I was comfortable, I was uncomfortable, and when I was uncomfortable, I was uncomfortable. So I didn't know how to live in the now, and I knew nothing about God, and didn't have a spiritual awakening until right before I was released.
So how did this disease change your life?
Wow, it's changed my life dramatically. It has stripped me to the raw bone. You know, I lost everything from relationships to children to companies.
Right.
It has stripped me legally, financially, emotionally, spiritually.
Yes.
And I would not let go because my God of my understanding
Yeah.
was drugs and alcohol.
Okay.
And I would not
Okay.
let go.
Wow.
So how did you get addicted? Because you said it stripped you from everything. So knowing that you had so much to lose, what made you go that way?
Well, you know, it was just a normal day, a summer day, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I can tell you the exact direction of the wind was blowing when I
Okay.
had that first sip of beer.
Were you up under the shade tree when it happened?
No, I was actually mowing the yard with my dad, and I tell
Okay.
everybody my dad was drinking a beer, and I've spilt more beer in one night than my dad's drinking in his entire life.
Wow.
Wow.
You know,
Really?
so he's not one of us.
Okay.
But I had this drink and I had a spiritual awakening.
Okay.
And I tell everybody that because I don't remember when I had my first Butterfinger. I don't remember when I had my first, taste of broccoli. It wasn't
Wow.
a spiritual awakening, but this was something that would help me remove that dark hole in my soul.
So what do you think led to these choices?
I think that's a great question. Fear. When I would get in fear, I would reach out to something that would change the way I felt.
Wow.
I did not have a spiritual foundation whatsoever. I had no idea of how powerful God is and that
Absolutely.
He was there.
Right, right.
Until now.
What were you fearful of?
I was fearful of everything. I was fearful of failing. I was fearful of my own thoughts.
Yes.
I was fearful of the future.
Yes.
And I had a hard time just being still, just being in the
Okay.
now. I had a lot of resentments as a kid. I was very confused as a kid. And everybody around me did the best they could with the tools that were given with them. And that's what God has taught me today, is to love everyone for what they have and the tools that they've been given.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Was there any repercussions to you becoming addicted?
Absolutely.
So what was it? Because I know for me, I have spirit of I ain't gonna say spirit of fear, but my biggest fear is failure.
Yes.
No matter what area of life, and so sometimes we do find things to complement our fear, and that's to offset it with something that we may or may not indulge as much in.
And I can relate to that.
Yeah.
And what that is what I've learned is that when I'm in fear, I'm not in the now, because God's right here, right now.
Right
as we're
now,
sitting
yes,
here.
right now.
Yes,
He's
he
right here,
is.
right now. And God's not, if I'm in the future, that's not where God's at.
Yeah,
Right.
because He's present.
And
He
that's
is
why
present.
it creates fear,
Yes.
because it's not real.
False evidence
It's
appearing
false.
real.
That's right.
It is
Yes,
false.
that's
So,
false
so
evidence.
that's where this disease, that's where Satan wants me to be, is in the past, and he wants me to be in the future.
Yes.
So because Satan doesn't want me in the now, because he doesn't want me hanging with God. Because he knows when I'm hanging with God, big things
You're
happen.
gonna reach that
Absolutely.
potential. He ain't ready for
Absolutely.
that.
That's right.
Absolutely.
No.
And
He's
so,
not.
so what is the now? What is time? God has God's all about the now.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yes.
so the great thing is how God will take someone like me and Joseph in the book of Joseph and take them from the depths that everybody says this guy's never going to make it. He's a thief. He's a liar. He's a cheater. He don't trust this guy. Don't. But one person never gave up on me, and that was God.
Yes.
And He's using me today
Yeah.
to
Right.
spread His message.
Wow.
He uses trash to spread His word, and that's what's so amazing
Yeah.
about God.
You know
He
you're
knows
preaching
the
right
value.
now,
Yeah, okay.
right?
I am.
Tell you about to
I
make
feel it.
You're gonna
I
make us
feel it.
shout right now. You're gonna make us shout.
That's
So tell
right.
me your addiction and how you created your story. What is your story?
Well, my story is they tell us in recovery that there's 3 ways to get clean and sober, and that's through jails, institutions, or death. And I've done 2.5 of them.
Wow.
When I very first started going into recovery and going to 12-step recovery meetings and being taught the spiritual principles of the program was in 1994. And I would sit in these groups, and I had everything. I'd pull up in my brand new car, one of my mini cars, from my big house.
Yeah.
And I had the wife and the children, and I would hear people say, man, I just got out of prison, I got a DWI. And I said, man, that's not me yet. And that's not.
That's right.
I can't relate to that guy. That's not me. I mean, I'm not that bad of alcoholic because
Right.
I don't have a DWI.
You don't have
yet.
all those issues yet.
Yeah. Well, today I'm that guy.
Yes.
I'm that guy.
Yes.
And the difference between M2 and the man underneath the bridge is the bridge. That's
Wow.
it. That's it.
Oh.
Yes.
And
that's
so-
a word
Good.
right
That's
there. That is a
good.
word.
And so today, I've had 27 mugshots. I hit rock bottom many a times, and I would get out of the bottom by lying, telling you what you wanted to hear. I'd get my hustle on to get back out, get me back in the game, get back in the real estate game. And once again, I was living in the future and I was living in the past.
Not
not
in
in
the
the
present.
That's right. And God continued to let me go out there, and I continued to wreck. And it got shorter and shorter and shorter.
Yeah, yeah.
And now the last 6 years of my life, I've spent almost 4 years incarcerated.
So what
Okay.
was it like inside jail? Because I
Well-
always think of jail as people just trying to get by. Some people are permanent jail people. They don't wanna come
Incarceration
out.
for me was the greatest
Yes.
gift that God ever gave
Sounds like
me.
you got a lot of healing in there.
And I was able to be alone with just me and God.
So you used it to really find him and find
This
yourself.
last time.
The last
Before that, as part of my story,
So the
is that
26th time.
the 27th time.
27th time, okay.
27th time. But all the other times when I was in jail, I was doing what they call hard time.
Okay.
And that hard time is when you're in there and you're pacing around, you're on the phone, your brain's going 100 miles an hour, you're so shameful of the past, you're depressed, and then you're thinking about the future, your future tripping, going,
Yes.
what are they saying about me?
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, I got to get my story straight. When I get out, I'm going to tell the whole world this is what really happened.
Yes.
And then I got to get back out, and I'm going to be, back on top of the game. I'm going to show them. I'm going to prove to these people that I can do this.
Yes.
It was
Yeah.
all resentment, Satan driven.
Oh, wow.
And every time I would get out, and right when the gas of the world would hit me, right when I inhale the gas of the world, I'd go right back to my old devices that I've had my entire life.
Yes.
And that's ego, pride, and grandiosity.
Wow.
That was what was given to me. That's all I knew.
That's all you knew.
That's all I knew. And God kept bringing me back. And then this last time when I got arrested was the huge spiritual burning bush moment. I've had a lot of burning bushes in my life,
Yeah.
but I was the one that was lighting the bush on fire.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So
okay.
but this time, when I had the burning bush moment, it was, as I
Was it an
say,
explosion?
oh, it was so. I get chills thinking about it. I was with a friend this week, and I was reading something on 7/7/17 is when my life changed, and when I became a new human being.
Wow.
So you're that new creature. When he said all
I'm not
things
even
have passed
close.
away.
You're not even
close
close
to-
yet.
Y'all can go back and watch videos of me when I was a home builder doing videos.
Okay.
Talking sticks and bricks with
Yes.
Michael Molthan.
Okay.
That's what people used to watch, and it's totally different.
Tell me about the half. You mentioned you did 2.5 of those things. Tell me about the half.
The half is I try to kill myself.
Okay.
I tried to take myself numerous times.
Okay.
I'll never forget, at a very young age, I would just swallow bottles of pills in my mom's medicine cabinet.
Okay.
Jesus.
Okay. That was my choice. It's not my medicine, it's my mom's medicine. But I would go in there because I was so miserable and uncomfortable in my skin, I just didn't want to live. I've had really bad things happen to me that are not okay.
Okay.
All right? The way I handled them, I didn't have the tools on how to handle it.
Okay.
All right? My mom and dad did the best they could. They just did not understand me.
Right.
And counselors didn't understand me.
That's good.
And they didn't understand me because I was so angry as a kid, I wouldn't open up
Wow.
Okay.
until the 27th time.
The 27th time.
Yeah, until the 27th
So
time.
when the people you were surrounded with, how did that affect you before going in jail and coming out of jail?
Well, I mean, the people that I've, my whole life, I keep my circle small. And
Is this your circle here in the audience with
yes,
you today?
my circle is extremely small.
Yes.
I have a lot of followers, you know, in the social media world, but I am a very hard person to get close to. And, you know, I've learned that from the real estate game, and I just learned that that's actually a good tool that now, it's an asset now for me. And what I mean by that is I don't depend on the flesh to make me whole. I depend on God to make me
Yes.
whole.
So it sounds like you felt like you were always misunderstood.
Yes.
What do you think people were kind of lacking in understanding who you are?
Well, it was hard to understand me because I wasn't honest. You know, I lived a delusional life. I was an actor in my own movie.
Okay.
You know, I was doing everything I could to try to change the way I feel. You know, I was incarcerated, not incarcerated, but I started living an incarcerated life because I would isolate. I would literally sit in my room by myself as a child and just sit there. And I would never read or anything, but I would just build stories in my head. And I would try to live out the lies and dreams in my head of who I wanted to be, what I wanted to be. And I was very confused. I was a very confused kid.
Okay.
It wasn't what was given to me. It was just the way my thought process
Right.
was. I have a
Right.
mental illness. I have an allergy to drugs and alcohol.
Yeah, yeah.
And when I make the choice, when I do make the choice to take that first drink or do drugs, my choice is over.
Yeah.
Yes.
My choice is over.
Wow.
Because you lose your control, because when you decide to, you have the control in saying yes or no. But once you indulge, you don't have no
Then the
control
allergy's
whatsoever.
triggered and I can't
Yes,
stop.
you can't stop because you have that taste and desire, and you go back to the old ways. So we all understand, because we all deal with something. We all addicted
We're
to
addicted to
something.
sin.
Yes, and it's just sinful nature.
True.
And like
Yeah.
they say, it's fun. Sin is fun, but the repercussions we cannot control.
Oh, those repercussions.
Like Paul
cannot
says,
control.
he goes, my spirit wants to do good, but my flesh
is weak.
My flesh is weak, and
Yes.
I go that way.
Yes, flesh is weak.
How are you prepared to go back to everyday life after, you got out this last time?
Well, let me share about this last time.
Okay.
Yeah, tell us about it.
That's the highlight of the story. So on 7/7/17, go figure.
Okay.
The
Sevens.
Completion.
I
Yes.
woke. That's right. I woke up. I was awoken. I couldn't breathe. And I could not breathe, and I started really having serious conversations with God.
Okay.
And I woke up, and it was like the movie The Green Mile, and I just felt all this hate and trash and anger coming out of my mouth, and it was just going up into the jail cell, and I was just like, and I could not breathe. But it wasn't anything medical. It was something totally out of body experience.
Okay.
All right. And I didn't ask for it. It just happened on that day. And when I went like this, I could breathe, and I was like looking around, seeing if anybody saw this, and everybody's asleep, and I stood up, and I was taking all this in. Something was different.
Oh, wow.
And I was so full of love.
Wow.
Love for people that I hated.
Oh my.
That's the
Goodness.
first thing I
Oh,
started
my.
feeling. I
Yes.
Okay.
started feeling love towards people who had done me wrong. I started feeling love towards people who
Wow.
had put me in jail. I've done time for stuff I've done time for some stuff I didn't do.
Tell us
Right.
what you didn't do when
Yeah.
you went to jail. What happened? How did that happen?
Well, a lot of it, but the role I played in it, I looked at, God has shown me, the role I played in it is I engaged with certain people, okay? Then there were consequences of
those
the
people.
decisions I made to
Okay,
engage in
okay.
them, and I own it, you
Yes.
know? So what happened is that once I had this awakening, all right, then I started reading a Bible. I mean, I begged a Black Panther gang member to give me his brand new Bible, and he gave it to me. And I was in a rock and roll tank. I was with murderers. I was with everybody, and my cellie, his name is Ooh-Wee, and I hope he runs. Ooh-Wee.
He sounded like he was fun though.
Yeah.
Ooh-wee, man.
Little bitty dude, and he was 75 years old, and he's done nothing but penitentiary. You know,
Really?
that's all he grew-
75?
Wow.
He grew up
my
in
gosh.
the pen, and he asked me a question, and he said, they call me Rabbit. That's what my name was in jail. So I say that, and it's neat because when people are getting released, they're messaging me, hey, Rabbit, what's up with it? You know?
Yeah.
And that's cool. But so he said, will you do me a favor? And I said, sure. So I started reading the Bible to him. He says, will you please, because he didn't know how to read. Because there's so many people that are locked up that are illiterate.
Wow.
Yes.
So I started reading the Bible to him. And then another person came in and listened to me read the Bible to
Wow.
him. And then my little cell had 6, 7 people of all these old schools, all right?
Yes.
And for the first time I realized I was living in the now because days were clicking off being incarcerated and I didn't realize it. I was enjoying where I was at
Yes.
because I was out of self.
You made that your place of peace.
I
in the
stayed,
midst of
and
your
that's
storm.
that's the key. So then I started studying more, and a book by Dr. Tony Evans was brought into the cell, and I read that, and he taught me about forgiveness because when my life changed on 7/7/17, he took all that out because the day before I started forgiving everyone that hurt me, and Tony Evans tells me in that book, he says, we know we have forgiven. How do we know if we've done it right? The way I know I've done it right is when I stop planning revenge.
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
And when I stop planning revenge, so what that looks like is I'm laying there in bed and I start thinking of woo-woo, you know, I'm like going, wait a minute, I'm not going there.
Absolutely.
I'm not going there. I
So
give them to God.
tell our viewers, you know, I've heard your story and I heard the last time you got out, it was absolutely unbelievable. So share that with us.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, Oh my gosh.
So it was, I had met with Judge Jennifer Bennett, who I love today. I just love
You love
her.
a judge, really?
I love her. I love her because she did her job. I got the only special treatment I got was from God. Judge Bennett did her job.
Okay.
And I went in and I saw her, and I'd already surrendered, you know, to God and everything, and I didn't care what we did. And she goes, listen, here's the deal. You're gonna mind somebody. You're gonna mind somebody. And she says, we're gonna do something about your drinking and drug use. That's it. Your decision making is a result of that.
Wow.
What she was telling me is that you're not a bad person.
Okay.
Okay? You're a sick person trying to get well.
Yes.
And she says, but you're gonna go to prison. You know, so I signed to go to Henderson. And I signed, and I was gonna be, you know, it's gonna be a total of a 2-year stint, another 2 year, all right? And so I signed, and I said, yes, ma'am. And she goes, now when you get out, you come back to this court, and I want you to pay it forward. I
Yes.
said, yes, ma'am. So I went back to jail.
Yes.
Bell County came and picked me up. So I went 300 miles away, and I went in there. I was supposed to be there a week, and I was there for 3 months. And after 3 months, I went in there and started reading to people.
Okay.
And God used me to turn that tank around. All right.
Yes.
And the guards were like listening and stuff like that. And I wasn't preaching, I was just doing me.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
just- I was
Like
just
naturally.
doing,
It
I
was
was just doing
natural.
this right here.
Yes.
And people were gravitated towards it. And then on October 13th, Friday the 13th, they come over the loudspeaker and they said, Michael Molthan, bunk and junk. And what that means is you get your bunk and your junk and you're free.
Wow.
Bunk
And I'm
and
like,
junk.
wait a minute, boss man, come down here. And I said, here's my paperwork. And he looked at it, he's like, man, this doesn't make sense. When God's ready to move, he moves.
Yes.
Yes, he does.
Yes.
God told me, he says, you're going home. So they called Dallas. I went and turned myself, I literally walked out of the jail, went back into the courthouse to turn myself in.
No.
They got on the
Are you
phone.
serious?
You didn't want to be free?
I thought there was a problem. And God said, go walk to probation. I
Wow.
walked 27 miles. I was bald. I was
Wow.
chain ready. Walked 27 miles. They called Dallas County, and Judge Bennett says, you tell him to be in my court Monday morning at 9:30. I'm 300 miles away. They find a benevolence fund, and they buy me a Greyhound bus ticket. I go straight to the Salvation Army. Homeless. I'm homeless. All right.
Goodness.
But I'm good.
But happy.
I'm happy and just doing the deal. I
Yes.
show up in Judge Jennifer Bennett's court, and she looked at me and she goes, there's obviously someone bigger than me working in your life, and I'm going to set you free. I go pay it forward. And now I have a iHeart radio show 5 days a
Wow.
week. I'm with
Wow.
y'all.
Yes.
I'm chopping it up with you two.
Yes.
And but that's what God told me in jail.
That's
He says, I got
amazing.
big plans for you. You go out and you do my work. And I tell all my friends, I hang out with a bunch of advocates in recovery. It's our job to carry the message, not the
Yeah.
addict.
Someone else.
That's our job.
So you have M2 on your hat, and I know your show is M2 The Rock. What does that stand for?
Michael Molthan.
Okay.
So MM.
Okay, MM.
So there's MM, and so they call me M2. You know, I got it tatted on me.
And what about the rock part? Where did the rock come from?
Good question. I'm glad you asked that.
Because I want to know how you got
Okay,
that
so
show title.
this is huge. The Rock, I realized every single time I got arrested and I hit rock bottom,
Okay.
I would
okay.
run out. I would get out of the
Yeah,
rock bottom as
yeah.
fast as I could. But I finally realized this last time, every time I hit rock bottom, I finally realized that the rock was God.
And that's
Oh,
what he was
that's
still holding you
good.
up.
And he says, why don't you stay down here at the bottom instead of racing to get out? Stay down here and let's chop it up, just
Yes.
you and I.
Yes.
Because nobody's down here with us except you and I.
Wow.
How can our viewers watch, follow you? You have such an inspiring story.
Oh, thanks.
How can they follow you?
And look out in the
Yeah.
audience and tell them,
Well, you
because
can
we
go
want
to-
everyone to go find you.
You can go to Facebook, Facebook Live. We have Facebook Live. It's M2 The Rock Radio on Facebook, and that's M, the letter M with the number 2, The Rock Radio on Facebook, and just go like me, message me, and we can, you start right there. We have Facebook Live
Absolutely.
feeds, iHeartRadio, 11:90 a.m., Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 4 to 5, Saturday 12 to 1, and come support us, man. And
You
if
are busy. Thank you so much,
Absolutely,
Michael, for being on the
yes.
show with Let's Talk.
You
and
really
with
touched
Angela
me.
and
Y'all are
Nicole.
awesome too. Y'all gonna be on my show.
Yes,
Yes,
we
we are.
love to come. And so again, audience, we'll be right back. But in the meantime, follow us at letstalkan.com and Let's Talk AN on all of our social media platforms. We'll be right back.
That's what's up.
Open floor plan, beautiful, great location. This is just what you wanted, girl.
Isn't that what you want too?
Yeah, but I don't have the best credit score.
Well, honey, neither did I.
True.
But I was still able to buy the house of my dreams.
But knowing how picky you are, you had to build like I did.
I got just the person you need to talk
No,
to.
call my realtor. She gives referrals.
So does mine.
Really?
Yes, really.
Tired of renting, wanting to build, looking for the right location, credit problems? Call Angelia Dunbar Realty.